Hello and welcome to Oran Park Raceway on a very, very warm Sunday morning. 33 degrees the top temperature as we get set to go racing in the final round of the Pro Car Championship Series. Being the final round, let's check the point score in Nations Cup. Jim Richards on top, 859. Paul Stokell second. Then we go to Peter Fitzgerald, Jeff Morgan and Tony Quinn rounding out the top five. Can Jim Richards hand Porsche their 7th title in a row? To do so, he needs to finish every race cleanly.
Yes, we do. We've got to finish in the points, obviously. I think we need to get 77 points over 3 races, so it just depends on how you divide it up each time to how much, what placings you need to get in each race. So, yeah, listen, we'd have to be unlucky to lose it, I suppose, but it has been done before, so we're not counting our chickens.
Paul Stokell's chances have been bolstered by Lamborghini bringing in this $700,000 Lamborghini Diablo, boosting his chances here this weekend for his assault on the title.
Yeah, it's actually Lamborghini's car. It's on loan to us, hopefully for all of next year, and it's the last one built at 30 of 30, and yeah, it's had Michele Alboreto drove it earlier in the year, and unfortunately he was killed soon after, but Troy Corser was in it the last time it ran, and yeah, it's a bit of a privilege to drive this car. It's the one that Wayne Gardner ran at the Grand Prix earlier in the year, and yeah, it's proving to be an ultimate weapon at the moment. Jim's played it very clever this year. He's had a good job, hasn't had a DNF I think in 3 years, and it's a tall ask. He really needs a DNF for us to have a chance, but all we can do is do our best and try and win each race and see what happens from there.
And this is what the Megamantis.com Nations Cup cars look like on the racetrack as they get set for race number 1 on the program. Craig Denyer, it should be an absolute thriller.
Absolutely. Final round of the Megamantis.com Nations Cup Championship. On pole position, Paul Stokell in the Lamborghini, Jeff Morgan in the Viper alongside.
Then we go further back in the field. Bob Thorne doing a good performance this weekend, up in 9th in the brand new Jaguar that suffered from a few mechanical problems so far this season.
Okay, this is a rolling start. 11 laps around Oran Park. The Lamborghini on the inside. Morgan's Viper on the outside. You're riding with Jimmy Richards, the current championship leader, and they're away.
And have a go at Peter Fitzgerald further back in the field in the Falcon Tyres Porsche GT3. There he is on screen at the moment, muscling his way through. And have a go at one of the Ferraris as well. Geez, these cars are absolutely superb out on race trim.
Yeah, John Bow having a drive in the car that Mark Noski normally drives. Coming down into Speedline Recaro onto the main straight at Oran Park. Damien White joining us in commentary too. Final round of the championship, Damien. Can the Lamborghini, of course, catch Jimmy Richards' Porsche for the championship?
Well, with that brand new $700,000 car underneath him, he's got the best equipment to do the job. I think Jim's got just as good a chance, of course, with Jim's consistency and amazing talent.
John Bow.
GF making his way through the field just in front of Peter Fitzgerald this time. He's had a pretty good weekend and is enjoying himself out there in the Ferrari. Peter Fitzgerald just once or twice this weekend. It looks like he's struggled a little bit, but he's done a pretty good job to be leading his main adversary, Jim Richards.
Further back in the field, we've got Steve Beard, Scott Shearman in the 2 red Ferraris, up the inside of Ian Palmer in the Cockatoo Creek Brabham Honda NSX. And again, riding with Jimmy Richards, leading the championship. In fact, he's got a points lead of about 104 points over Paul Stokell and 180 points up for grabs in the 3 races.
There's the man who's extremely quick this weekend, the Chrysler Viper of Jeff Morgan, as we watch Jim Richards getting very tail happy coming onto the main straight. There's the man to beat. He is absolutely on fire in this brand spanking new GTR Lamborghini Diablo.
It's an awesome looking machine, isn't it? Some 5.9, almost 6 litres, a V12. Close to 600 horsepower. You just don't get a bigger monster than this thing.
I asked them what was the difference between this one and the old one as we watch him come down across the line and take the checkered flag. They said it's slightly wider. I said, you are kidding.
And a new lap record to boot too. 1:12.04 for Paul Stokell, set on lap 3, so a great way to kick off his final round of this year's Megamantis.com Nations Cup Championship. To take the win from Jeff Morgan in the Dodge Viper. John Bow, great result in the Ferrari, 3rd outright. Peter Fitzgerald in the Falcon Tyres Porsche, and then Jimmy Richards finishing in the top 5.
Yeah, we're still there. I'm not even sure where Jim finished that race, but yeah, I just did the best I could. I don't know, our lap times were as consistent as anything, but everyone else just dropped off. I don't know what was going on there. I thought the Viper would take it up to us, but yeah, just a bit of blind to first lap and then bye-bye.
Round of the Pro Car Championship Series, and this man, Paul Stokell, has a very novel way to make sure that he doesn't over-rev the car this weekend.
Yeah, the guys are a bit nervous about me going past 6.6, and I got to admit I am myself. The car's pretty peaky, so they've devised this little laser beam system on my helmet. It works a little light system. It's basically an LED that shines brightly in my eyes when it gets to about 6.4. So I got about a 200 rev gap, and in the lower gears that comes up pretty quick. So that's really a big knock on the head that says, hey, hang on, change your gear, guys. It's time to get in the next gear. So if I can implement that this weekend, we'll be right. But it's not an easy thing to do, and unfortunately, we wouldn't normally do it this way, but we're stuck with it.
Well, cars now starting to grid up for race 2 of the MegaMounties.com Nations Cup Championship at a reverse grid race, riding with Jimmy Richards in one of the in-car cameras from the OM's Porsche. And can he wrap up the championship in this race? John Tulin on pole, Ian Palmer alongside, then Scott Shearman, Steve Beards, Mahir Al-Gadri, Bob Thorne in the Jag, Michael Turner, and Tom Waring's Ferrari.
And then we go back to Tony Quinn, Jim Richards, Peter Fitzgerald, John Bowe, Jeff Morgan, and Paul Stokel. A man on an absolute mission this weekend is rounding out the field. He needs to win, he needs to beat Jim Richards, and Jim Richards needs to retire from this race at least to get Paul Stokel back in that championship hunt.
So rolling start behind the Volkswagen safety car here at Oran Park. This will be an 11-lap reverse grid race. Look at Paul Stokel's Lamborghini right at the back of the field. John Tulin on pole position. They come down to take the green flag.
And Bob Thorne, an absolute flyer of a start from him as we see the fast guys at the back of the field all trying to find their way through, but it's going to be the Ferraris that lead them down through turn 1 for the first time. Down through there, Waring sideways. He's come around and
Stokel.
he's Stokel.
Stokel, that's taken Paul Stokel off. So is this the end of Paul Stokel's championship hopes? The Wilkinson Sword Lamborghini bogged in the sand. Tom Waring's Wormel Ferrari alongside.
On board now on the OM's Porsche GT3 of Jim Richards as he tries to make his way through the field. Comes up behind the Falcon Tyres Porsche of Peter Fitzgerald. Looks like he's gone straight round him. Great move, Craig.
Yeah, good move from Jimmy Richards, and I guess his team will be telling me over the radio that Stokel's out, so Jimmy will now just drive for points. Damien White, a very, very interesting first lap of this second race here at Oran Park today.
Awesome, that was huge. I mean, these guys are at $300,000, $400,000, sometimes $700,000 cars, and they're just throwing caution to the wind. They've got to put a show on for the spectators. That's what they've done. This is a great opening lap.
No doubt about that as they continue to battle for positions right throughout the field. This is what reverse grid racing is all about. There's the Viper of Jeff Morgan trying to find his way through the field. And Mahir Al-Gadri rounding them out as they come around this time to complete lap number 1. A good go there by Tony Quinn up into second on the first lap. Oh, Morgan getting squeezed for room further back in the field. Safety car has come out onto the racetrack. So let's take a look at the replay of how things have turned about. There's Waring, he gets it sideways, hits Fitzgerald, bounces him across the track where Paul Stokel's tried to avoid the incident, but smash. There you have it. $700,000 of Tonka truck.
And a championship to boot,
Yeah.
unfortunately for Paul Stokel.
On board now with Jim Richards.
You can see Richards got caught up in that. He was pushed wide on the grass. Stokel is behind him. So the incident's actually happened behind Jimmy Richards. And look at the damage. Plenty of damage
And you've got to feel sorry for Stokel, haven't you? I mean, no doubt Jim Richards is a model of consistency, but you've got to say that luck perhaps has been a little bit on Jim Richards' side this year. He could have well been taken out there as well, but it was Stokel again on the receiving end.
Back under race conditions now. Bob Thorne really lights it up off the start. He's going to lead them down into turn number 1, and the ADI electrical Porsche GT3 of Michael Turner was able to work his way through the field. Now finds himself in second. That's a great effort for the Porsche Cup driver who stepped up this weekend to Nations Cup racing.
Jimmy Richards chasing down John Tulin in the Ferrari 360 Challenge. Great to see Bobby Thorne competitive this weekend too in the Super Cheap Jaguar. Currently leading the race, Damien. They've had a long, hard development road with that car.
I'm looking forward to how it performs next year. They're just starting to get a little bit of reliability into its performance, and hopefully the team can get it together and have a good, strong year next year.
So all the guns at the back of the field. There's John Bowe, Jimmy Richards alongside, Peter Fitzgerald just ahead. Then Tulin and Fitzgerald come together. Bowe goes through on the inside of Richards.
And
Yeah,
you can, sorry to cut you off there, Grant. You can see from inside Jim Richards' car that he doesn't want to have a piece of this. He's got the championship to worry about. And these guys, the prancing horse guys, are sitting on the fence going, what the?
How much are these cars worth? And obviously the checkbooks are going to be rampant running up and down pit lane at the end of this race. It's an absolute thriller. Our race leader, good to see Thorne, but now he's under an attack from Tony Quinn. The VIP Pet Foods Porsche GT3 takes the lead, and a black flag out there for car number 3. So problems for Peter Fitzgerald. He comes under the wrath of the stewards.
I pick up what that would be for, but Tony Quinn certainly did a great move coming into Speedline Recaro to wrap up Bob Thorne as Peter Fitzgerald goes to the pits.
You'd have to assume it was for jumping the start on the restart after the safety car. We'll try and confirm that for you. Look at the pace of the Viper.
V10, 8 litres, 550 horsepower. What an awesome machine. As our race leader Tony Quinn goes through. In fact, I think you'll find, is it John Bowe to second now? So Bowe's come through the field dramatically in the last lap or so.
Jim Richards right up onto the tail of Jeff Morgan down in Momo Recaro. Tries to do the switcheroo coming up onto the straight, but this Viper has plenty of legs coming down the straight.
That Viper is a monster. Monster.com is right. Certainly not monster.come and follow me, because there's no chance of that down the straight.
Well, he's been able to wrap up Bob Thorne, who's no slouch, going down into the kink, and has been able to do it very, very easy. That puts a bit of breathing room between he and Jim Richards, who's 2 cars behind now.
So will Jimmy Richards make it 3 championships on the trot? Will he wrap up the Maguire's Drivers' Championship in this race and make it the 7th straight title for Porsche? What an awesome career.
He's a magnificent driver, no doubt about that. And whether it's wet or dry, they call him the Rain Master, but he's just as good in the dry. And he's looking very, very good at this stage to walk away with the Maguire's Drivers' Championship.
Thank you very much, Mr. Thorne. You didn't do any harm to my Porsche there, as it made it easy for Jim Richards to get through. But let's talk about Tony Quinn. He's just walked away with this so far, and he started very similar position on the grid to Jim Richards. It's a great job. On the last lap now, John Bower just behind Tony Quinn, so can he do anything about it? Over the bridge they go, the Porsche GT3. 3.6 litre versus the 3.6 litre V8 Ferrari.
John Bow in second. He hunts down Tony Quinn, who only has a few more turns to negotiate to pick up his first win in Nations Cup racing. And the Porsche GT3, sponsored by VIP Pet Foods, looks absolutely smooth out on the racetrack. Let's see what Bow, he can do. A late move. He's looped it round. The Ferrari's lost it coming down the hill out of the exit of the dog leg, but he's been able to keep it on the track. But that's going to be a very first win for the VIP Pet Foods Porsche GT3 of Tony Quinn. What a recovery for John Bow. I guess that's why they call it the Ferrari 360. 360, Damien.
That was just incredible. VIP for Tony Quinn. Very impressive performance for John Bow. That was amazing.
There they have it, ladies and gentlemen. There is your race winner in race number 2 on the program. He would be absolutely delighted, and he would be absolutely delighted. Let's take a look at the replay of that incident with John Bow over the top of the dogleg, Damien White.
What's happened there is he's just hit the ripple strip there on the left-hand part of that dogleg, which has lifted the inside front wheel, unsettled the back of the car. We can see the result is that a very spectacular, and might I say, very well-controlled 360, Ferrari 360. Like Craig said, that was awesome.
So Tony Quinn, our race winner in car 43, the Porsche GT3. John Bower second, Jeff Morgan third, Jimmy Richards, then Michael Turner rounding out the top 5.
Well, yeah, I guess, I mean, I was actually trying too hard. I could smell a victory, you know, and they're pretty hard to come by, but I tried to have made a blue. So congratulations to Tony. He drove very well, and those reverse grid races are interesting, aren't they, to say the least.
And a good 4th for Jim Richards wraps up his 2nd Maguire's Drivers' Championship and his 3rd title in a row.
My guys have worked very, very hard all year to make sure that our car finishes every race, that I don't make any mistakes, and that's what happened this year. We, you know, we won 2 races, but we finished every race. Well, I didn't have to really push myself at all, because you could say that Paul shot himself in the foot. I mean, he had 4 DNFs, this is 5. It's easier to win championships when guys don't finish.
All smiles for Jimmy Richards, but unfortunately tragedy for Paul Stokel, and his championship totally out the window.
Tom Waring, I think, got tagged by somebody going into turn 1. I'd sort of kept my nose very clean. I was a well away from everybody, and then unfortunately I was on the outside of everybody, which was going to be good if it had come off, but when they went off, obviously they went towards me. I thought I got past him, and then he sort of overcorrected in a bit of a spin and just caught the back of the car, which is... One went stuck, and 2 had stove the oil cooler in, so we're a little bit stuffed at the moment. Jim's got the championship, and congratulations to him. He's still finishing, and we're not, so, you know, hopefully better luck next year.
Race 3 of the megamantis.com Nations Cup. These drivers battle for positions in the Maguire's Drivers' Championship. As always, the grid, a sea of absolute colour as these cars line up and then head off on their warm-up lap behind the safety car, and then get underway with race number 3 on the program. Led around by our pole sitter Jeff Morgan alongside John Bow, then Tony Quinn, Jim Richards, Peter Fitzgerald, Michael Turner, Paul Stokel and Mahir Al-Gowdry rounding out position number 8.
Back to Bob Thorne in the Jaguar, John Shulin in the Ferrari alongside, Scott Shearman, Tom Waring, Steve Beards and Ian Palmer at the back of the grid. I don't think he's going to be a starter in this race in the Brabham Honda NSX.
A rolling start in all Nations Cup races. The safety car should pull off to the inside of the racetrack, and we'll be underway with the final battle for 2001. Set for a start, safety car pulls off. waiting for the green flag, and there it is, and we are away and racing, led down the main straight by Jeff Morgan in the Viper. He pulls away from John Bow, who tucks back into second, but a good dice between these two. They've managed to pull out a few car lengths on Jim Richards.
Oh, first of 11 laps here at Oran Park. John Chulin on the outside, Bob Thorne on the inside on the Jaguar, Damien White. A great result for Jimmy Richards, wrapping up the title in race 2 today. But Paul Stokel back there in 7th spot. You just about have to put your money on that black Lamborghini GTR, wouldn't you?
Absolutely, and wasn't it a fantastic effort by the whole Lamborghini team to get it back on track for race 3? What about Michael Turner? The hazard lights are ablaze. I wonder if that's some sort of message he's sending to the competitors. You've got to worry.
John Bow's been able to wrap up Jeff Morgan down there in turn 1. He now takes the race lead on this opening lap. Tony Quinn is out in no man's land with Michael Turner having a real big go in the ADI Electrical Porsche GT3. 2 Porsches side by side, but Tony Quinn gains the upper hand.
Well, Tony wrapped up his first race win in Nations Cup today in race 2 in the VIP Pet Foods Porsche. But look at Paul Stokel, the Lamborghini Diablo GTR, $700,000 worth of machinery.
John Bow and Jeff Morgan still battling it out at the pointy end of the field. Morgan tried to find a way around coming down the straight, but I tell you what, that is one wide Ferrari, especially when it's driven by John Bow.
So the top 3, Bow, Morgan, then Jimmy Richards, the brand new champ, back there in 3rd spot. I tell you what, Damien, though, Jeff's done a tremendous job with the development of this car this year.
Yes, he has, Craig. Of course, with the help of Barry Jones and Rick Bates, who's the test and development driver, they've done a fantastic job. He's got a couple of wins this year. I think Eastern Creek was his first one. Fantastic performance. I haven't been following him too closely, but looking at him now on track, he's doing a great job.
Certainly the car performing exceptionally well, particularly here at Oran Park, where a few of the pundits believe that he may have a horsepower advantage around this racetrack, but certainly he has not been able to run away with any of the races. Peter Fitzgerald at the moment is on a bit of a charge as he comes up behind our 2001 champion, Jim Richards, going down into Momo Recaro speed line.
Yeah, just trying to pick up where Paul Stokel is on the track. Set a new lap record earlier today of 1:12.0. He's just done a 1:12.4.
And that represents the fastest lap of this race so far, as Morgan now has a big go down the inside of John Bow heading down to turn 1, and looks like he's been able to find his way through this time, Damien.
Yes, Grant, he's done a fantastic job. You're talking about that horsepower advantage, and he might have one, but I must say, you have an advantage. You still have to be able to use it, so let's not take away from the fantastic job that Jeff has been doing.
Hear, hear.
Morgan, Bow, Richards, they're your top 3. 3 different manufacturers too, with the Viper, Ferrari, then the Porsche. Of course, John Bow went on to win this year's Sandown 500 in the car that Tom Waring's also driving this race, that superb white Ferrari 360 Challenge.
The number of the beast, 666, is now up into 5th position. Paul Stokel may not have been able to walk away with the championship here at Oran Park, but he is certainly on a charge at the moment. So too Bow. He's absolutely annihilated by the fact that Morgan's been able to get past. Now Stokel moves up past Fitzgerald. He is picking up positions hand over foot. Fitzgerald having a big go back. I tell you what, the panels on that Porsche aren't looking too good at the moment. Look at the right-hand side.
So the Crazy Johns, Wilkinson Sword, black Lamborghini GTR. This was a car that Paul Stokel drove in the first round of this year's championship at the Clipsal 500 at Adelaide, where he drove to his first victory for the year. It then went back to Italy and was brought back by Lamborghini just for this final round at Oran Park.
Paul said he likes driving this one a great deal. It's a smooth car to drive, and he's certainly proving it there out on the track at the moment that he's a man on a mission. Comes down behind Jim Richards now, straight past him.
Let's talk about that horsepower advantage again now. I mean, that Lamborghini's got some sort of power underneath that bonnet. What did you say, Craig? It's a V12, 6 litre?
Yeah, 6 litre, runs probably close to 550, 570 horsepower. And it's also got very, very good mid-corner speed, fast corner speeds. It's actually a lot more stable than the SVR that Paul's been driving in most of the championship rounds this year.
Mr. Porsche there getting around Jim Richards. Those two have had a good battle right throughout the season, particularly out on the track, if not within the championship itself. And here comes the flying Paul Stokel, right up behind John Bow this time. He's up into 3rd. He's looking for a race win. He wants to end the season on a high. Has to dab on the brakes going over the top of the dog leg. Bow comes along, protects the inside line. Stokel has to go around the outside. We'll try and get him going down the straight. Ducks into the slipstream coming up onto the straight. Let's see what he can do, Craig.
Well, I think it's all over. Look at the power again. That superb V12 versus the 3.6 litre V8 Ferrari, which carries just over 400 horsepower, so there's in excess of 100 horsepower difference between the cars. Sure, the Lambo is a lot heavier, but it's got that wide track at the front end, Damien, which just allows superb turning.
superb turn-in, and the exit speed of that last corner onto the straight. I think Paul Stokel's exit was a much better one, and of course he does have a power advantage, but again must be able to use the advantage you have, and Stokel did that.
Bob Thorne there, just in a bit of a battle with Smiley. Mahir Al-Gadri, every time you see him, Craig, he's got the biggest smile on his face.
Well, doesn't he bring some colour into the event?
He certainly does. There's John Chulin in the Crossroads Ferrari 360 Challenge, just behind Bob Thorne in the Super Cheap Jag, having a great run this weekend. Good to see Bob back at the front of the field. Well, not so much at the front of the field,
but certainly in the
certainly
field.
Competitive, and he'd be a lot more happy about this weekend's performance.
He's had some problems with the motor on board that car, but it's good to see it's been able to last this weekend. Paul Stokel now right up onto the tail of Jeff Morgan as they go across the top of the bridge, and forced his way through, relegating Morgan back to second. He won't be happy with that.
That was a fantastic move by Stokel, which all started at the right-hander, which leads up onto the bridge. He got a much better exit. I keep referring to that exit thing, and the exit speed is more critical than the entry speed, and Stokel working over on the bridge. But no matter how good the exit was, that was a fine move to do it off the bridge.
Stokel, Morgan and Bow, first, second and third in this final race of the MegaMatters.com Nations Cup Championship at Oran.
See what Paul Stokel can do now as he comes up onto the main straight. He has clear vision in front of him for the first time this weekend. He'd be pretty happy with that. Jeff Morgan won't be all that happy. Here's a replay of the overtaking manoeuvre that sees Paul Stokel gain the upper hand in the Diablo.
Well, he carried more speed onto the bridge, which of course gave him that chance to throw it underneath there, and of course Morgan also did a great job to allow him the room to carry it off in a good, clean manner.
On their last lap, the three-time Australian Gold Star champion Paul Stokel won't win the MegaMatters.com Nations Cup Series this year, but 2 out of 3 this weekend at Oran Park. A great way to finish the championship.
Certainly is, and the Wilkinson sword Lamborghini Diablo takes out the final race for 2001 in front of Jeff Morgan. Then John Bow comes down across the line just in front of Peter Fitzgerald and the 2 Porsches sitting right behind. But there is your triumphant final race winner, Paul Stokel over Jeff Morgan, then John Bow, Peter Fitzgerald and Jim Richards rounds out the top 5.
Yeah, it was a fun race actually. The car's obviously got an advantage in the fast corners. You know, we're picking them up around the back of the circle, there's no tomorrow. The Viper I thought was going to be a bit of a handful. He's pulling away from me down the straight, and I had to get him around the back in the twisty bits, and he's seemed to be braking a bit early, dived in and pulled it off. So it wasn't easy. We had a power steering pump failure during that race, and my arms were hanging off by the end of the race, I can tell you.
This man just continues to amaze. Jimmy Richards, 3 titles on the trot now, the 7th straight title for Porsche. Wraps up the Maguire's Drivers' Championship, 984 points for Paul Stokel's 876. Then Peter Fitzgerald, 794. Jeff Morgan, Tony Quinn rounding out the top 5. Darcy Russell in the Viper well back. Mark Noske, Dominic Beninka, John Chulin and Mahir Al-Gadri finishing in the top 10.
It's been a great weekend of action here at Oran Park Raceway as we watch the champion taking the spoils of victory, if you like.